Oh my Lord, I'm talking and I'm on mute. I think we have everybody. Is everybody ready to get started?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. It's 7 o'clock, so 7:01. I'll call to order the Local Government and Community Services Committee. Tonight we are going to discuss an ordinance or resolution, and I've left the issue of systemic racism in committee in case we want to update any talking points on that. So the very first thing we are going to discuss is Ordinance 2045, which relates to the 2020 recodification of our ordinances. This ordinance approves the editing and inclusion of recently passed ordinances into the codified ordinances of Fairview Park. This includes not only ordinances that we have passed as City Council, but also ordinances that may be affected by state legislation. And I believe this is going back 2018 through 2020. Does anybody have any comments or concerns on this?
It's 2019. They use the last date of 18, but it's all of 19 and everything we've done.
19, all of 20. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I had a question. It would include the charter amendments as well, updating that. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Here.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a comment just real quick.
Sure.
Because I work with Walter Drain, that's who recodifies our books. I did send an email out to all departments a few years ago. Well, it's more than a few years ago now. We moved our code online. Most cities have theirs online. And so I've asked the departments if they're actually still updating their books to receive the replacement pages, because that is part of our cost to do this update. I know a lot of departments use that electronic version to be able to pull it down, but some still do the paper update, and it really doesn't make any sense to do it unless you are doing it, because it is pulling out pages, putting in pages. It's an exercise. But so as soon as I know how many total departments are getting it, that's when I'll know exactly how much it'll cost. So just that update.
Did you give a deadline to the city departments for that?
I did, and actually I think it was last week, but I only heard back from one. So I'm gonna send a reminder and see who wants to get it. I'm sorry, my pen fell out. So I'm gonna send a reminder out, and I believe it was police that said that they still wanted the book, but I haven't heard from any other ones. So I'm gonna double back and see, and hopefully give them another deadline of probably Thursday. And so I can get back to her and she can get the update done into us.
Thank you. Mayor, could I ask that you provide some backup to Liz and double check with your departments on that?
I will. I think probably police will be the only ones that would want it, but I will check with everybody and we'll let you know later this week. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Ordinance 2045 recodification? So then I will make a motion to place this on second read and return to committee. Brian?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah, yes. Bridget?
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 7-0. So that brings us then to Resolution 2017, establishing a city diversity and inclusion coalition. And I have three things, I guess, I wanted to discuss regarding this. The first thing is I would like to make an amendment to the legislation. I believe the first whereas clause in this legislation should state, Whereas this council has identified racism as a national public health crisis that causes disproportionately high rates of homelessness, incarceration, poor education, and health outcomes, and economic hardship for African Americans. And the reason I want to make that amendment is we are basically in the language appointing this committee, but we've not really explained why we think we need said committee. And I think addressing it from a national standpoint, and then the second whereas clause says we seek to understand how this topic is affecting our city, makes sense. We're stating nationally it is a problem. We seek to understand that problem as it pertains to our city.
Sarah, could you read that again, please?
I would love to read that again. I know it's long and I guess I should have put it in front of you guys.
No, it's fine.
Whereas this council has identified racism as a national public health crisis that causes disproportionately high rates of homelessness, incarceration, poor education, and health outcomes, and economic hardship for African Americans.
Sarah, if I may ask,
Sure.
is the term African American the term that would be used these days, or is Black the appropriate term?
You know what? I am the wrong person to ask that. I want to be sensitive, but I guess I do not know. Does anyone on council have you done the research on that particular topic? I have not.
I mean, wouldn't it really apply to anyone disadvantaged? It doesn't have to be necessarily one.
That's what I was going to ask Sarah, if it would be, more inclusive than just African Americans, but anyone of diversity.
If that's the case, I would have to go back and rewrite it. I'm happy to do so, but those specific outcomes are specific to that race.
Sarah,
I do believe that they probably.
I think that's an excellent amendment.
Thank you.
I agree the amendment is good. I just didn't know if the proper terminology is African American or Black. Do you know, Mike?
I think African American would be correct.
Okay.
Well, we can put it in there. And my plan is to return it to committee. So, you guys can sit with it. It'll sit, we'll have the changed language. We can sit with it and we can always, the next committee meeting, make some changes if we think we need to. But I think that it's really important that we identify why we want to create this task force and why we want to seek understanding of this problem here in Fairview Park. So I'd like to add that whereas clause. The second amendment I'd like to propose is the change in name. So I know there's been some debate, Anti-Racism Task Force or Diversity and Inclusion Coalition. After doing some research, I think we could change the name to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coalition to promote the idea that we do need equity between all of our citizens and visitors in this city. So that would be my second amendment.
Sarah?
Yeah.
I'd rather it be the Anti-Racism Task Force that was originally proposed. Just my opinion.
Okay.
And you want to go with equity versus equality?
Well, diversity and equity go, I guess, together. That grammatically is the reason I picked that. Mike, could I ask you the reasoning why you'd like to go back to the Anti-Racism Task Force? I think that would help frame the discussion and help us all understand the importance of it.
I think it goes back to what you just stated about the whereas clause you want to add. It defines the resolution. It gives the resolution its purpose right there. That's why this resolution has That's why you're needing to add this whereas clause, because you've made the title of the resolution kind of wishy-washy.
But I think we all, at the basis, understand what we're trying to do here. I think everyone is in agreement that the purpose of this is to come out as a better community at the other side of it. And I don't know if singling out only one specific thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with what's written, because I think everyone's in agreement that the purpose is to make our community, every community, a better place, right?
That is the purpose, but also it's to deal with the pressing issue of racism. It is the issue in this country at the moment.
Anti-racism is the driving force behind us, initiating this in the first place. But I would potentially think that as this coalition meets, the racism will be in the forefront, but what could arise is some other issues that show some inequity and exclusion of people for various reasons. Race being the driving force and the real thing that we're trying to open people's eyes and educate them on. But in the process of this, other things could arise in which, as Greg mentioned, within our community, there could be some other issues in which people are not treated fairly. And we would hope that that coalition could, delve into that as well. But I would agree, racism is, the driving thing that got us going with this, but other things I do think will come up. So we'd like the coalition to be able to deal with, all of these things to promote, the equity and inclusion that is addressed in the title itself.
Sarah, again, I think your amendment is excellent and does help to define the resolution and its task. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a look then. The third thing I wanted to discuss regarding this ordinance is, this resolution is obviously once we take a vote and potentially pass this resolution creating the task force, we will need to get people to apply for it. So I thought about the fields that should be required on the form, and that's something that I'm going to try to bring back to you guys for review next committee meeting. But I wanted to just kind of make a list of what I think should go on the form and then get your input. So I started with obviously first name and last name, address, including city, state, and zip, right? Phone number, email address, all information so that we can contact them and verify residency. I was also asking for their title and place of employment, though I'm not positive it's relevant here, but it might be nice to have. So I'm open to that.
I don't think it's relevant.
Okay. Does everybody agree it's not relevant, or?
Oh, I think it's relevant.
I think it's relevant. You think whether they're employed or not is relevant?
I think it enhances what knowledge they may bring to the table. I mean, there's some people who are going to come forward who might not necessarily, their job might not be anything that catches our eye, but there will be other things on the application form. But someone else, if they're somebody that works directly in this area, they can bring some expertise that would help the group as a whole. So that would be nice to know what their jobs are.
Well, the other option is, and I was thinking we could optionally ask applicants to provide a resume, which then would give us that information.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think you could ask, if I may, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm, sure.
I mean, I think, I think you want people to let us know why they want to be on this. And I guess obviously we need some certain parameters to get it started, but, I think sometimes it's better to hear from a person as to why this may interest them than having a somewhat of a form. Some people will attach a resume, some people identify their positions, and some may just, give you a story. I mean, I've gotten emails from people as to why this issue is important to them. and which resonated with me as opposed to necessarily what their career might be. So I think that's really what we want to focus in on.
Okay, so then I will remove, oops, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I agree with the mayor 100%.
Okay, so I will then remove place of employment. I will ask the length of residence in Fairview Park. And then my last thing, and I think that this goes to what the mayor was just saying, is a cover letter indicating the following. So number one, why are you interested in serving on this task force? Number two, what skills, abilities, and training do you have that would make you a good fit for the task force? And number three, the vision for how you believe this task force will impact our city. And then the optional, you know, if you want to include a resume, you can, which I think maybe based on this, it doesn't matter.
Those are excellent questions. Excellent questions, Sarah.
Yeah, they're good. What do you think? Do you think we'll be able to draft what the application or what the form will look at? We can all view it before we.
Yeah, that was my hope, was that we could have a small discussion on it tonight, and then I could bring to you for next committee meeting a draft form.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Great idea.
Madam Chair, I had a question. If somebody doesn't answer those questions that you're proposing, does that exclude them from us reviewing it? Because I think most people will be able to, let us know what the reason why they want to join. But if they don't hit on all the topics, I still would like to have an opportunity to see, who they are and what their interest is in with respect to this coalition. So I'm hoping that's just not like almost like a job application. If you don't hit certain requirements, then you're not going to be considered. I'm not sure what the council's thought is on that.
Truthfully, here's my thought on that. We're going to ask them to have a 2-year commitment to a task force, which is going to require a great deal of critical thinking and research. And my thought is, if they are not dedicated enough to answer whatever questions we ask of them, how can we make sure they're going to commit themselves to 2 years of this kind of work? And I'm not saying they have to answer them amazingly, but I'd like to see effort on it.
Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want I don't want this application to sound out like we're trying to recruit from academia or something. I mean, we want people from all walks of life.
So
Right?
then maybe I'm happy to take, do you feel that some questions are not appropriate? Do we just want to say, write a cover letter saying why you'd be a good fit?
I just would like to again agree with the mayor. Let's not make this, like a job application.
Sarah?
Yeah.
I think that the questions that you're asking are excellent. Personally, I think that those questions are more important than a resume would be. I agree with you. If you're not going to put in the effort to answer these questions, then what kind of effort would you put into the task force itself? But some people might have an interest in it and not have a special skill.
And that's okay to me.
Yes. So
that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know so if you don't put anything under special skills, we still would be talking to you because of your reason for wanting to participate. So if you answer one question of the 3 that really show that you have the drive for it, and you don't answer the other question because you don't have skills in whatever, negotiating, or I don't know.
So maybe you could change the skills, the ability, or life experience.
Life experience is going to be a big part of this coalition, and I think the question, I agree with Councilmember King. I think those are great questions, but those are also questions that we could ask an individual after we've seen that they've expressed an interest in being part of this. So I think those are relevant as to the person's interest and commitment to serving. But I just don't want to, and I don't want this to sound, I don't want to intimidate somebody and thinking, well, I don't have a skill. I'm not, I'm not an HR person. I'm not an attorney, or I'm not, as Council President Kilbane, an academic. I think really a lot life experience is really, in a lot of things, especially like this, will be invaluable. So I just don't want to, I want to encourage as many people as possible to join in. I know, and I'm sure you do too. And I think one of the things with respect to that is that, Lakewood has 9 members on its task force, and it's a city that's 3 times the size of Fairview Park. So I'm not sure, I did talk to Mayor George. I think they had close to a little over 30 applicants. But, we just want to encourage as many people as possible to express an interest, and then we can follow up with those questions. So that's my thought there.
So now you say that, but I will tell you, I'm pulling up Lakewood's application right now. They do ask almost these exact same questions, I suppose. Why are you interested in serving, and what are your qualifications to serve? So, ideally, if you want to take out the question, the vision you have for this task force, that's understandable. But I took a look at what Cleveland Heights asked. I took a look at what Akron asked. I'm right now taking a look at what Lakewood asked. These are 2 pretty common questions across applications. So I'm happy to remove the vision for how this task force will impact our city, because perhaps that is, that is something that we can talk about down the road.
Sarah, I think that that's a good question, because I wonder if people are going in thinking that they're going to be able to have us put up ordinances to change things, or people just looking for conversation in the community. People might just want it to be a more of an open conversation versus serious changes that would change the dynamic of a group.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, I think at this point it's fine. Just leave whatever you have in. And if we're going to discuss it in another meeting, I think if we all have something in front of us, we'll be able to be more on the same page of what should be kept in, what should be. So for right now, I would say just keep everything in, send out what you have, and we'll talk about it next meeting.
Okay. And that's
Sarah?
fair. Yes,
Sarah?
go ahead.
Would you please, with your proposed amendments and your questions on your application, if you could forward the raw draft to Liz, and she could send it to us via email so we can digest it and be better prepared for the next meeting.
I would be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sarah,
Yes.
do you think maybe we should ask a question on the application, something to the effect, does the applicant believe that racism actually exists and is a problem in society today? That would get to the point right there.
I
don't-
would think anybody doing
I don't-
this would think this.
Yeah, I would
I don't-
think if they're applying, they're probably already agree with us on that point. And I'm not so
We
sure.
wouldn't
We want them just to check the box. Just
Well, but at the same time, though, I would almost be okay with having somebody who says no.
I think you want as many different opinions, again, that's a question you can follow up on.
to check that box, either of the options too. I think if they're applying,
Well,
that probably confirms that for us.
Does this appear to be lagging to anybody else?
Yes.
Multiple people talking at the same time.
So Sarah,
Yes.
to that point, I've received 3 or 4 emails asking me why this is even going to be, why we're discussing this, because they don't see a problem in Fairview. They don't see racism as a problem in the country in general, or very specifically in Fairview Park. So I think that question might be valid to put on something like this.
Well, what if you want that person to serve and air his or her opinion? Then you're
That's fine.
automatically precluding them.
I'm not precluding them.
Okay, all
I'm just
right.
asking
I didn't
if they
know.
want-
Okay. All right, that's fine.
We've had a lot of discussion on this. I'm going to write it down as a question, and maybe the homework is, which questions do we want to put on the application to get an idea of who it is we are interviewing when we interview them? And which questions do we think would make better interview questions? So maybe that, like, let's write it down. Let's not throw it out. We don't even have to decide it right now. Let's write it down. And then as we're digesting this over the next week or so, let's put that. So I'm going to write, do you believe that racism is a problem in society as a general, in society as in general, and also in Fairview Park? But yeah, maybe that's what we should do, is just, we come back next week and maybe 2 questions are for interview and 2 questions are for application.
Sarah,
Yes,
thanks for your work on this.
you're welcome. Does anyone have any further comment on Resolution 2017?
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. I'm going to place this on second read and return to committee. Brian,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah, yes, Bridget,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and Mike.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes, second read, return to committee. And then I did have on the agenda just the issue of the city's response to systemic racism. I know that we've had a period of time to sit and think and chew on this. I didn't have anything in particular, but given we were talking about this resolution, I wondered if anyone had any thoughts or anything they wanted to discuss on this topic tonight.
Nothing comes offhand for me, but it feels like we do make progress when we talk about it, and it seems like it's good discussion and everyone's getting thoughts in. So thanks, Sarah, for handling it so well, and I think we're moving in a good direction.
You're welcome. Okay, so if that's the case, obviously, I know we're making progress in other areas with this resolution. I will just keep the topic of systemic racism in committee. And as we move forward, I can see us having quite a bit of discussion about this over time. But at least in the meantime, we are making progress on this coalition. Okay, any other comments? All right, local government and community service ends at 7:28. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, so Finance Committee will start at 7:28 p.m. And we have 3 things to discuss. The first 2 kind of go together. Ordinance 2043, placing the fire levy renewal on the May ballot. Resolution 2016, requesting the county to certify the fire levy renewal. Chief Braffin, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to this is the first time for many of us going over this. So I was just wondering if you could just give us a brief overview and talk to us about these 2, about putting this on the May ballot.
So traditionally, this has been on the ballot since right around 1975. I can't be exact as to that because obviously it's a while before my time. Generates about $300,000 to $310,000 every year, and it's a renewal. So it's based on tax valuations of the homes back in the initial inception of the levy, so right around the 1975 mark. As such, it generates about $35 for every $150,000 of valuation, so it's about $24,000 per $100,000 for every year. So it's not by month, that's per year of valuation. And as currently, and it has been for the last, since its inception, probably about 50 years now, generates about $305,000, like I said, $310,000, which is about 10% of our budget. So goes to fund personnel, maintenance, equipment, anything that is used or any expense that might come up with the fire department.
So in our ordinance right now, it says that the current levy will expire December 31st, 2020. So what happens?
That's correct.
So what happens between December and May?
So the taxes are collected in the rears. Okay, so when it expires in 2020, you will be collecting that all through 2021. And then when you pass it in May of 2021, the time frame will be for 2021 through 2020. What is that? 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'll be through December 31st of 2025. So it picks up that next year. I think that in previous legislation, it looks like it might have been erroneously dated so that it was always expiring the next year, when in fact it doesn't expire next year. If we said that it expired next year, that would mean that the taxes were being levied through the end of the year next year, and that is incorrect. The taxes are being levied through the end of the year this year. Then they're collected the following year, just like your normal property taxes. Your tax this year, you pay next year.
Right, and then what happens if this doesn't pass in May?
It's bad. How's that?
All right, do we try again November, or you just have to cut?
So we would try again in November, and then if it did not pass in November, we don't like to think about these things and look negatively upon it. But if it would not pass in November, you would have to figure out about 10% of the funding of the fire department would have to come out of the general fund. So you would have other consequences throughout the municipality.
Okay. All right, does anyone have any other questions for the chief? Okay. Thank you so much, Chief, for explaining. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to help.
So
Hey,
that,
Bridget.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Do you have a timeline on this to get this passed? And I guess I'm asking because Chief Raffin is here. You know, how long do we have to make each of these steps?
Are you asking me, Sarah, or Bridget? I'm sorry.
If you
A little bit of both.
Right ahead.
I don't know that answer.
So traditionally, the only time that it went to 3 readings, and again, I'm looking at information that's a little bit, confusing over the last few times, but so you had 2006, 2011, and 2015 that it passed, correct? So in 2006, the resolution was passed in 2 readings and the ordinance was passed in 1, and the rest of the things were suspended. In 2011, they were both passed in only 1 reading with everything else suspended. In 2015, I don't know why, and I apologize, I can't remember why it worked out this way, but they were all passed in the same 3 readings. So it was 1019, 11.2, and 11.16. And they were passed coinciding at the same time, assuming that the county auditor came back and gave you the certifications that you needed, and then contingent upon that certification, the ordinance was passed. So I guess it's really up to all of you how you want to view it. I think we have enough time to pass everything on the normal 3 reads. But truly, this isn't any.
Tony,
I'm sorry, Mike, you were broken up. Go ahead again, man.
I'm sorry, Tony. They've already been read twice.
Yeah, so and so this will be the 3rd reading coming up for both of them. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Right. So I think we're in a fine spot. I think it's a 90-day turnaround for the county auditor. I'm sorry, the county commission to look at it and throw it back at us. So I think we're in a good spot.
Bridget,
Yes.
just to, can you hear me? 'Cause I can't hear myself talking.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so what happened the last time we did it and why we had to repeal something and do it again was because you cannot pass the, you have to pass the ordinance, get the certificate back from the auditor, and then pass the resolution. So what happened was when we did pass those all at the same time, the auditor actually reached out to us and said, hey, you can't do it that way. So we had to repeal it and do it over. I think like within days of the filing date, but we did get that done. So that was what happened on the last round. So really you can pass the ordinance, I guess, and hold the resolution because you cannot have a date of passage for the resolution before you actually get that certificate from the auditor.
Right.
So I could put the ordinance on 3rd and final read, but the resolution will just remain in committee until we get that.
Correct.
All right.
Thanks, Liz.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
If I may ask Chief Raffin a question, please?
Of course.
Chief, I was just wondering, with the fire levy renewal, traditionally, is there much campaigning involved? And if so, is this done by the firefighters, the city, or whom?
So traditionally, yes, there is. There's quite a bit, and every year since I've been there for the past 22 years, when this has come up, we've gone out house to house. We knock on the doors, we pass out literature, because the big thing is to let them know that it's a renewal, right? You don't want anybody thinking it's an additional tax, especially in today's day and age. So we just try and explain to them that it's a minimal cost, $25 to $35, depending upon how you look at it, per year. And we do go house to house. Every firefighter gets a little section of the city.
Okay, thank you.
For literature you guys pass out or publish or anything like that, do you guys ever do fundraising for any of that stuff?
As far as fundraising for the literature?
Yeah, for the levy literature.
No, typically
You have levy literature.
Typically the union makes a contribution to put things together. I mean, everybody knows that, you know, we all benefit from this, and they're more than happy to help out. I mean, they're very cooperative with it.
Chief Raffin, is there a committee that is set up, or is it just the union that funds those costs?
You know, I don't remember. I'd have to look at it, but I think that they had to create a committee, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But the costs are very minimal. I think that the most that they spent last year was a couple $100 on postcards to hand out.
Okay. So
So
there's a committee.
More than anything, it's time is what it comes down to.
Right.
But I would have to check. I don't remember exactly how they did it last time, to be very honest.
Yeah. If there's a committee, then people could donate to the committee. And then to Councilwoman Adler's question, the city cannot, support we can't use our resources in any way to either in support or against the
That's
levy.
correct.
Same thing with
That's
the school levy. We could not advocate and use our resources in any way. And there was there was a Ohio Attorney General opinion with respect to a school levy, where the act of posting a link on the city's website to a link to in favor of a school levy was deemed improper. So any support given to the levy by the firefighters or anyone else employed by the city would be on their own time.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 2043 on third read and final passage. Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes,
Sarah?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Greg?
Yes.
Then I'd like to make a motion to keep resolution 2016 in committee. Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Maureen?
yes,
Sarah?
Yes.
I will vote yes. And Greg?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief Raffin, for explaining that to us and answering all of our questions.
Not a problem. Happy to help.
All right, so the next thing we're going to discuss is ordinance 2046, which is the 2021 County Board of Health contract. This was on first reading last week. It looks like this is something that's just kind of standard operating procedures. Bill's saying yes to me. So does anyone have any questions or anything? It looks like they did do a nice job of including some additional COVID-19 resources that they're going to provide. Does anyone have any comments or questions or anything on this?
No, Bridget.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
just I just, the Board of Health has been invaluable this year to the city of Fairview Park. We have relied on them numerous times. They've been very responsive. I have called them. I would typically get calls back the same day. I talked to one of their deputy directors. I know he had been really busy throughout the year, and he was on vacation, and he got back with me within 24 hours. So, as you mentioned, this is something that's pretty standard. I believe, talking with Director Single, the last renewal was a 2-year renewal. This is a 1-year renewal. And, they've been extremely busy, very supportive, and I anticipate that, might be a longer term next year, but they're just kind of pushing through as quickly as they can this year. And then just somewhat off topic, but relating to the Board of Health, I did get a response from them regarding the lead paint, which I will forward to council tomorrow.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to make a motion to put this on second and subsequent third read. Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes,
Sarah,
Yes.
I will vote yes, and Greg?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it for Finance Committee. We will conclude at 7:42 PM.
Thanks, Bridget. Okay, we'll now have boards and commissions reports. Ryan,
Nothing tonight.
Bill,
Nothing tonight, Mike.
Maureen,
nothing, thank you.
Sarah,
I also have nothing, thank you.
Bridget,
Nothing.
Greg.
CRA is meeting. I think it's the 17th. I'm drawing a blank on it now. So that is we review the abated properties in the city. So if anyone is interested on any of the properties that have current tax abatements on for property taxes, please reach out to myself or Councilman Minnick. Bill, is that the 17th?
Yes,
Okay, 17th, 7 p.m. is the meeting. That's all. Thank you.
at City Hall.
At City Hall, Dunson Room.
We'll have information posted on our website as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, round table. Brian, do you have anything for round table?
No, nothing tonight.
Bill?
Thank you, Mike. The Planning Design Commission will meet next Wednesday, the 18th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Maureen?
I was just curious if Mary Kay has an update on the Mastic Hill project timeline, how they're doing.
Thank you. We met with the contractor late last month. Mayor and I were able to go out. It's amazing what they have accomplished. Their engineering and the amount of concrete that has gone into that hill is amazing. At that time, they confirmed that their December completion date was on track. So we're anticipating a completion date this December, and not a moment too soon from everyone's interest. But just a caveat that only includes the roadway. We have not heard about the grant for the pedestrian trail that would connect Mastic at Eaton to Mastic at Valley Parkway. So we're still waiting to hear if that grant award is going to be made to the Metro Parks.
But the pedestrian pathway going down the hill would be open.
That
correct?
grant is right. That grant is for the pedestrian pathway that would join the existing structural piece that's been completed as part of the bridge. So as part of the bridge, there's a pedestrian walkway included as part of that construction. And
Right.
then on the ground, a trail would meet at either end.
Okay.
High side and low side.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that all, Maureen?
Yeah, and good work on election day. I know I had some family working the various poll sites, and they said things went. It was overwhelming, the number of Fairview voters that came out, which is quite exciting, and no problems that I'm aware of from any of the poll workers that I know. So good work on Fairview's front in supporting our elections, especially the
thing.
schools. And that's it.
Fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Sarah?
Thank you, Council President. Maureen, it's funny you say that. I feel like the election was both 3 weeks ago and yesterday. So, the only thing that I wanted to bring up is, as I've been driving through the city, I'm seeing a lot of people who are cleaning up their leaves, which is wonderful. But I'm also seeing a lot of leaf piles that are falling into the streets. So I just wanted to make a public reminder that that is a pretty big safety hazard for people on bicycles or cars, motorcycles, when you have something like that in the street. And those leaves, especially if it were to rain, can end up in our sewers, which create even more problems. So just kind of be vigilant as we, rake our leaves to make sure that they are on the tree lawn and not on the street. And if they do fall into the street, please pick them up. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Bridget?
Thank you, Mike. I have a couple things. First, for Mary Kay, I received 2 emails about sandbags being removed from the sewers, very specifically on Sycamore. Can you tell me why? And
Absolutely. Sandbags were being used to restrict the flow of stormwater to the catch basins, and that was important to minimize the pressure of stormwater when we have those deluges. And the pressure will push that stormwater out of the storm system and into the sanitary system, and that eventually leads to some of the basement flooding issues. So the sandbags restricted the flow, but they're also a bit of a maintenance issue. And as we look forward to, some of us, but not all of us, look forward to the winter, they're a plow hazard. So we have restricted the device, the catch basin that collects the water, inside underneath the grate near the pipe, so that we don't have to use the sandbags, but we can still restrict and slow that flow of water, hold that water up on the street, and really allow that rainwater to slowly access the system and into the storm pipe.
perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I have a question for you. Our senior center intern director, Laura, her 90 days is up November 15th. And I was wondering what our next steps for that position is.
We would ask for a renewal of her interim status.
For another 90 days?
Yes. I'll send a letter to the clerk.
Because it ends on Sunday, so then we would earliest be doing this on the 16th on a Monday. So there'd be like a little lag. Is that technically a problem in anything? I don't know.
I don't think so, but I mean,
I don't know. Okay.
I mean, if you could do it retroactive if you wanted, and that's what I would ask.
Okay. Perfect. Then I also have a question if we have an update on the police, the service, or an updated fire contract.
Well, there's a fire contract, and we're going to be meeting with the ASME union next Monday, and we'll be meeting with the police department. We have a fact-finding schedule sometime in December, but we'll be meeting with them prior to that fact-finding. So we're still working on it.
Okay. And then my last question, I don't know, is Tim Riley on the phone today?
No, he's not.
Okay. Then Mayor, maybe you can answer this question. I don't know if this is something that Fairview Park would get involved in, but at the end of October, Cincinnati and Columbus both filed lawsuits seeking injunctions to block the new fee having to do with HB6. the, saying that this is an unconstitutional tax that's going to be starting on January 1st. And I wanted to know if Fairview Park should do some sort of legislative action to stop that tax from hitting our taxpayers.
I'm not familiar with that. If you want to send that over, I'd be happy to take a look at it and discuss it with Director Riley.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep, that's all I have then. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. Greg?
Yeah, two questions. The first one, the flow study, flow meter study that we're doing in Ward 5. When are we supposed to get data back on that? Wasn't it late this year?
I'll take that, Your Honor, if that's all right with you. So there is a flow study that was happening all summer long, and Rocky River Wastewater Treatment Plant has been using that data to determine charges, and they'll be meeting Thursday with the management board. In Ward 5, we have recently, I think at the end of last week, received our documentation, our loan documents that will allow us to begin using that. So thanks to City Council, you have authorized us to enter into that loan agreement. And we have Mr. Riley, our Director of Law, reviewing those documents before we execute them. So as soon as we have our loan authorization, we're going to start moving forward with actually using that data. So it's very exciting. Hopefully we're able to report that by the end of the year.
So I guess I'm curious on the flow data now because you said the flow studies or the flow meters are in the Rocky River where it goes to Rocky River, but Ward 5 we know goes to North Olmsted. Do we have data that isolates Ward 5 for North Olmsted?
Yes.
Okay. And then that data, when is it going to start becoming available?
Well, the data will be accessed and placed into models. And so it's a fancy word for formulas, where they'll process what each meter is read. So right now it's just numbers. I'm not sure it has much meaning until it's placed into formulas. Today we were looking at some of the graphs that these modeling can generate so that you can actually see the meaning of what the numbers are about. And that's what this loan will allow us to do.
Okay.
Greg, so with the Rocky River plant, they have a study done every 3 years on this type of, on the flow and the type of flow that goes to the treatment plant. What we did was we piggybacked on that study and had them collect the data for Ward 5, but we didn't have somebody ready to do the modeling that they had already lined up for the Rocky River plant. So the EPA loan that you approved will allow us to plug the data that we've collected and have it modeled to show when there is an event, how much rain it might have infiltrated the system.
No, I get that. I'm asking what the time frame is. Is it going to be 3 months from now, 6 months, 2 months? Is there an idea of the time frame of the plugging the data?
So we hope to start that at the end of the year. We need to sit down with the sub-consultant to have them tell us what their time frame is. And that's what we hope to report by December, end of December, end of the year.
Okay.
But to us, it's looking like information that we'll have in the first half of 2021, those within the first 3 quarters at the very longest of 2021.
Okay. All right. Thank you for explaining that. It's just one I'm very excited about. And then the only other thing I was to ask again about Earth Fair. Has there been any activity on Earth Fair?
Well, I did last week call the management company, and they would only let me know that there are people inside the facility that are working on items that don't require permits. So they're cleaning, painting, and restoring some things that occurred while Earth Fair removed equipment. So they won't confirm or deny at this point, but There
But
is action in there. It's very exciting.
It appears that
and-
we're moving in a positive direction.
It is moving in a positive direction. All
Very-
those phrases that we don't want to hear, but it is very, very it's very promising. So as soon as I have information to share with you, I will share with City Council.
Walt is on strict orders as soon as he gets some plans to let us all know so we could share it with everybody. So
And I believe he's doing some drive-bys, even more than I am. So we
he's a
should have
stalker.
we should have information soon. Thank you.
There be a name change, Director? Are they going to change the name?
There's no indication that there's a food store going in. There's action in the interior that they're cleaning things up for people to take a look at that. So I can't tell you that there's, I can't tell you any information about the names or the type of business. It's just promising to see that they're expending funds to do what they're doing right now, which is general cleanup, nothing that requires a permit.
Thank you.
Sorry for no details, but that's what was passed along to me at this point.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have for roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz, do you have anything you want to share tonight?
The only thing is I got notice today that TMD will be meeting on the 18th. Their meeting agenda says that they're meeting in the Dunson room. So just so you guys know that at 7 o'clock.
Liz, that's November 18th or December 18th?
November. Let me pull it back up to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's November. Email. Oh. Excuse me, my computer is very temperamental. Hold on.
it is November.
November. Thank you.
Liz, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to say before we finish up tonight?
I just wanted to, I don't know if we got notice last week from Simply Recycling that they're discontinuing their curbside pickup. We had received a notice from them late October that talking about renewal, and less than a week later, they notified us that they were temporarily suspending the service due to COVID concerns. They have provided a website, donategoods.com, which we have posted on our website, where you can schedule a pickup. It's as opposed to having them come picking up from your tree lawn. I know Common Threads is a local company that does accept donated items as well. We are going to look to see if there are other organizations that people can, give these items to. So it was unexpected and unfortunate because I know a lot of people like that service. So we'll keep you posted on that. That's all I have tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. All right, well, that will conclude our committee meetings for this evening. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Good night, you
Have a
guys.
good night.